Today I'm going to show you a real life example of just start somewhere. We live in a world where it's so easy to be paralyzed by getting started that we never take the first step. It's honestly sad to think about the greatness that could have been if we had just encouraged each other to take that first step. So today, I'm going to go first and take a new step for me, speaking to a live audience. You're about to be a fly on the wall to see 27-year-old Kevin Camus talk to a group of small business owners at the Ionia, Michigan Chamber of Commerce. No cuts, no polishing, this is the raw video. Well, I guess I shot it in log, so I had to at least color correct the clip. But beyond that, you get to see the uncut truth. In today's talk, I'm going over SEO basics for small business owners. I kept this one really basic and simple because I knew that the audience wasn't going to be the most technically advanced. So I wanted this talk to be catered towards someone who had literally just heard of SEO for the first time and was curious where to get started for free. This opportunity had me excited because I knew that I could leave these people with a few easy and practical tips that would make a meaningful impact on their small business. The business that, puts a roof over their head, food on their family's plates. And that right there is why I love what I do. So that being said, let's dive into today's talk. All right, you guys want to rock and roll?
We're ready to rock and roll, Kevin.
Let's do it. So thank you guys for taking some time out of your day to hang out with me. I'm excited today. We are here to talk about 3 letters in marketing that often get thrown around and used in all sorts of different ways. And those letters are SEO, stands for search engine optimization. And we're going to talk about how it can apply for small local businesses today. If you've been here for some of the previous conversations, you'll know that I do these talks a little bit differently than what they tell you to do. When you talk to groups, they tell you do not put words on a screen and make people read them. I listened to that, but unfortunately I still chose to put words on the screen. So my brain thinks in terms of notes, and I think my job is to communicate information that you guys can take home and be as helpful as possible. And I felt the best way to do that is to gather my notes. I prepare them in these documents. As you can see, I give you the chance to get your own copy of the notes so that you can take this home with you today as well. And I'm excited to get into it. So like I said, we're here today to talk about SEO. We're going to talk about 3 fundamental things for search engine optimization. We're going to talk about your website. We're going to talk about local business directories, the modern day phone book, and we're going to talk about how social media plays into this. So we'll go ahead and get started. I like to get interrupted with questions because likely if you're thinking of the question, somebody else has the same question too, so feel free to hop in at any time. I will kind of bounce back and forth. I'll keep going back here to my laptop to keep moving through the notes. You'll have what's downloads on your phone will be exactly what's on the TV, so I might even pause and take some notes during our conversation, so you'll get a copy of that too. So let's get into it. So we're here to talk about SEO, and before we get into talking about anything technical, I want to start very basic, and I want to explain 3 different terms that we're going to be using a bunch today. When we're referring to search engines, this is any platform in which people are searching on. So the big names are obviously your Google is going to be your big one, but also Bing. Don't sleep on Bing. A lot of people use Microsoft products, so Bing is still important. YouTube, owned by Google, the video equivalent of search platform, so very important. And then even your social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok count as search engines. We're actually seeing this more and more popular today, is that people are using social media like a search engine. If you're looking for, let's say you're going out of town, you're looking for a restaurant. A lot of people will look up restaurants in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's a good visual proof to see if you are what they are looking for. So we treat these like search engines. There was some news last week, even you might have seen if you follow marketing stuff, that Instagram posts now even get indexed in Google. So when you search things on Google, Instagram posts will actually show up on Google now. So if you've been posting on Instagram for years, it's kind of a nice pat on the back that all of a sudden you're going to get rewarded with even more search traffic. But if you're not utilizing Instagram, it's another reason to go ahead and get started on it. So then the term SEO refers to search engine optimization. So that's just basically, in simplest terms, making it so that when your either keywords or business name is typed into any of these platforms, you show up. So on Instagram, that might look like, if you type in pet grooming business, Ionia, Michigan, do you show up? The optimization part is climbing the ranks. So let's say you typed in a very competitive keyword like cheap wine. Okay, barefoot wine has a really tough challenge set out because there's so many people competing for that keyword to rank for that. We're blessed in that I think the people in this room, as well as the people that I work with, we're local businesses. The competition isn't nearly as dense for us. So it's a little bit easier, which means that what we're going to talk about today is quite attainable with regards to ranking on these search engines. The other one that I am going to say a few times, it's getting more and more popular, LLM, it stands for Large Language Model. It's essentially the technology that AI like ChatGPT is using. So when you're interacting with ChatGPT, it feels like you're talking to this person sometimes, but what it's connected to in the back end is called an LLM, a large language model. And the reason I included this in here is that AI search is just getting more and more popular. You guys might even be doing this yourselves. Instead of going to Google, you're asking ChatGPT, what's the best local mechanic to work on my car. People are turning to AI to get business recommendations. The good news is that the same principles that have been in play for years with ranking on Google is also working to rank in AI. So what's been working is still working at this point, which is good. As that changes, that's part of our job as marketers to stay on top of that. But for now, what we've been doing for search engine optimization is still working with LLMs. So I also threw this in here because this is something that I always want to talk about when I mention SEO. If you've looked into how do I search engine optimize my website, it can sometimes feel like the Matrix. You've got one person telling you this and some guru telling you this is the secret sauce. The truth is, no one actually knows how Google's algorithm works unless you worked at Google and signed your life away, but they're not going to talk about it. So instead, it's up to marketers like myself and my business to research and test and run experiments to see, what inputs can we do will actually make a difference in our rankings on platforms like Google, Instagram, as well as now AI. So what we're going to go through today is tactics and strategies that we've done time and time again that have worked well for businesses, and I want to share that information with you guys today. So let's keep moving along here. So I talked to you about the barefoot wine example. Like I said, if you're trying to rank for national terms, best cheap wine, it's going to be significantly harder. If we are ranking for local terms like pet grooming, Ionia, Michigan, it's going to be easier. And the reason it's easier is because search engine optimization is purely based on who you're competing against. So like I said, barefoot wine is competing against a huge crowd of people, whereas a local business, you're probably only competing against a handful of competitors. So it's easier to beat them. So that's what gets me excited. So we're going to talk about 3 platforms today that we're going to use to build your search engine optimization foundation. It's going to be your website, it's going to be business directories, and it's going to be your social media profiles. Business directories are your platforms like Google My Business, Yelp, Angie's List, Better Business Bureau. These are the modern day phone book. We want to have you listed in as many of these as possible, and I'll explain why once I get to that section of today's talk. And then your social media platforms, like I said, we want to be on there because people are using them as search engines and they link back to your website. And I'm going to explain how to do that. So these 3 areas create what I call your internet footprint. And the stronger and more consistent you are, the better your search engine optimization. I like to think of it like a spider web with the website at the middle and all these different connections. So we're going to start today by looking at the website. I call it the home base. It is your own corner of the internet that you get to customize, you have full control over, you get to track the data on, and you get to create contacts when people inquire with you. So here's where we want to start. We want to start with these essential pages that your website needs. And so when your website sits on the internet, the pages are what make up the website. And what Google search engines and these LLMs do is they crawl your website. It's a term that gets used. They're crawling the different pages. And basically they're looking at the different pages to understand who the heck you are. And they are seeing these different pages to understand what lines of business you're in, what communities you serve, who's your target customer, how to get a hold of you, when are you open. It's crawling and learning as much about you as possible. So we need to do a good job and give Google and these LLMs good information to crawl in a very clearly organized manner that they can understand. We don't want to be like too creative and too kind of out there and crazy because they just won't get it. Like if too abstract, it won't land home. Sometimes you got to go back to the basics. And these are the basics that I like to start with when I'm talking to local businesses. These pages work wonders for giving Google a good understanding of who you are. The homepage is obvious. I'm going to circle back to that. I'm going to talk to you guys how we're going to build these too. But I like to start here because this is really the skeleton of your site. These service pages are kind of where the top players start to separate from the bottom players. The top players are going to make separate pages for each service that your business provides. So let's say you do 3 different services. I'm going to keep going back to my pet grooming example. Maybe we can do landscaping. That's a good example. So maybe you do a page for routine grass mowing. Maybe you do a page for like pesticides and fertilizer and all that stuff, and then maybe you do a page for like rock work. The point is that we want to do a separate page for each line of business that you're in. Again, this helps Google understand what it is you actually provide. And we need to be very clear and concise with that. So separate service pages. An About Us page is the one that is great for giving you the kind of the soft side of things, the get to know us, what we stand for, our mission, our vision, our values, all that stuff on the About page. The Contact page, all the information they need to contact you. And then these 3 are what I call the meat on the bone. And I'm going to explain how we're going to utilize those in a minute, because this is what really separates the top players from the bottom. So step 1 is we need to just make sure these pages exist. And then step 2 is that we need to fill them in with detailed copy. Copy is a word that gets used in the marketing world. It's fancy lingo for words that go on a web page. I don't know who came up with it, but it just stuck, and everyone says write copy for a website. So if you hear me say that, that is what I'm referring to. It's just fancy lingo for words that are going to go on this page. So this is where we can start to use AI. So we need the copy on the web page to be very clear, very clear. Like I said, if we're vague or unclear or light on details, both the person visiting the website and Google aren't going to know what you do. So we need to be very clear and organized here. So historically, this has been quite a challenge because we're not all expert authors and writers, but we have a handy dandy tool in our pocket now that's called AI that can help us with this. So in the notes today, I have given you guys a few GPT prompts, ChatGPT prompts that I use all the time. So you can literally just copy and paste these, fill in the blanks. And this one right here is one of my favorite ones that I use all the time. We use it when writing website page copy. So here's what we do. We start by brain dumping all of the critical information into whatever works for you. For me, it's the Notes app on my iPhone. I don't know what it is, but something about just typing on my phone, I just get all my thoughts out. So the point is just write out your thoughts in whatever manner works for you. If that's a Word doc, a Google Doc, the Notes app on your phone, your tablet while you're laying in bed, whatever it is, you just gotta get your thoughts down. And it honestly doesn't matter how like rough or unorganized or scatterbrained they are. The most important is that it's authentic to you. Because keep in mind, ChatGPT can write, you could just say write all the copy for my landscaping business webpage, but it's not going to know the context that makes you unique to you. So that's why what's so valuable is that brain dump, that stream of consciousness, that off-the-cuff thoughts that you have, just get it written down. And then what we can do is we can plug it in to use this prompt. So see, you're prompting it saying you're expert copywriter in search engine optimization. Your task is to write the copy for the landscaping page on my business's website. So you're taking, okay, it understands what landscaping is, and then you're taking all your raw thoughts that are unique to you, and when you marry those two up, it's like steroids, is what it's about to put out here. So that's why it says reference the information that I've provided below, include keywords, as well as a meta title and meta description. I'll explain what these are, and schema markup. I'll explain what that is in a second too. If you've ever talked to GPT, sometimes it'll give you like emojis and those weird long lines. They're called M dashes. Nobody actually writes with them, but GPT does. So I tell it not to do that because we're becoming trained. When you see that in writing, you know that AI wrote it. So now we're telling AI to strip it out. So anyways, this is how you go from your rough notes plus this prompt equals bulletproof copy for your website. And basically we can run this prompt for each of your service pages, your home page, your About Us page, and your contact page. You just keep kind of dumping your raw thoughts, plugging in this prompt, and you're getting all your copy written for you. In the prompt, I mentioned a few technical things, and they come into play with search engine optimization, so I want to give you a brief explanation. I'm not going to give you the full explanation of these three because you can absolutely go on GPT and just say, what is this? And it will tell you, but you're going to see this talked about, so I just wanted you to be familiar with the words meta title, meta description, and schema markup. The meta title, actually, you know what? I can just show you this one on the fly here. Okay, so our friends over at CNC Lawn and Landscape, this thing on this blue heading, this is a meta title. It's the big text that shows up, and you actually have control over what that is for each of your website pages. I'm not going to give you the technical definition of how to set it. You can look up, if you use Squarespace or Wix, you can type in Squarespace how to set meta title. But it's super important because it's literally the first thing people see when they type in your business. So it amazes me how many businesses we see that they didn't set this properly, and it leads to them not showing up. It's one of the most important things to get your business to rank is that meta title. And then the meta description is that right there. So meta title, very short, only a few characters. GPT will even tell you how many characters it can be. And then the meta description is more characters down below, first set of paragraph text. So it's super important to set that for each web page. And that is why in our prompt, I told us to write it for us. So when this prompt runs, it'll not only give you the copy for the web page, but it'll also give you a meta title and a meta description without you having to lift an extra finger. Like I said, you can type in basically, Squarespace, how to add meta title and meta description, then it'll show you where to put it. But we want to set that for each page. Okay, last technical thing we're going to go over today. I wanted to mention though, this one's called schema markup. It is a set of code, yes, like real coding code, that gets pasted into the back end of your website. I don't know how to write code. You don't need to know how to write code. This prompt is going to give you this code, and you literally just hit copy, and you're going to paste it into the back end of your website. What it's doing is it's called structured data. It's explaining things in a way that Google and only Google and LLMs understand. To human eyes, it looks like nothing, but to these search engines and LLMs, it's gets right to the point without trying to dance around it of what you guys do. So schema markup's really powerful. It's one of the things that we always work with. When we work with clients, very few of them have it on their site to begin with, and when we implement it, I see big smiles on faces because their site instantly starts to climb the ranks. And thanks to the fact that AI can write this code for us now, we don't have to know how to write it anymore. We just have to know how to copy and paste. So I'm not going to go any more in depth on it. Again, you can basically just type in, Squarespace, how to add schema markup to a page, and then you'll be able to add it in that way. So this process that I'm talking about, I outlined it here. We want to do this for each service page, the About page, contact page. I like to do the home page last. I don't know if somebody said this, I didn't make this up, writing the first chapter of the book last, or the intro last. Once you have a good idea of where you want to go with it, then do the intro, then do the home page. So when we build sites, we find the best success when we do the home page last, because it really functions as kind of like a table of contents, right? It links out to all the other pages. It's kind of a summary of everything you guys do. So we always go in the order of service pages, About page, contact page, home page. That is step one of getting your online presence ready to go, is getting basically a solid home base so that when somebody makes it to your site, you kind of have all the necessary information ready for them. So once we have that in place, we're ready to move on to part two of the website. This is what I've referred to as the meat on the bone, the muscle. If the service page, the About page, home page, contact page, if that's the skeleton, these guys are going to be the meat. So the blog, portfolio, and service areas are additional pages that we can add to the website to give it more depth, more credibility, more thoroughness, more meat on the bone. Google and these LLMs, they are in the business of making good recommendations. If Google made bad recommendations, we would leave and we would start asking Yahoo or Bing to give us recommendations instead. The reason we don't use Google is because they give us good recommendations. So we as marketers need to provide Google with the most authentic, up-to-date, in-depth information about our business so that they can be confident recommending us. I often will think of this like a Facebook page. Imagine if you went to somebody's Facebook page and it was like no information, no picture, no nothing. You feel like you wouldn't really know them. You probably wouldn't recommend them to a friend because you don't really know them. Whereas let's say you go to your friend's page and it has all sorts of great information, great photos, bunch of great information, you're more likely to recommend that person or business because there's more depth and credibility to them. So we can't add multiple home pages. We can't add multiple about us pages. We can't add, invent new services just to have pages. So instead, we can add more pages to the website through our blog, portfolio, and service area pages. So the blog is essentially your own corner of the internet where you can write articles and post them on the website. The more posts you have, it's just leveling up the number of keywords and pages featured on your site. So you might have one page that talks about your lawn mowing service, but then you can have 100 articles that talk about how often should you mow your lawn, what type of mowers do we use, all the things that go into mowing lawns you could put on your blog, and that'll beef up the number of pages, credibility, and depth on your site. The portfolio looks different depending on the business. Sometimes I call it case studies, sometimes I call it success stories, sometimes I call it like testimonials, before and afters. I'm going to keep running with the lawn care example. So maybe on your portfolio you showcase what somebody's lawn looked like before they worked with you guys, and then afterwards maybe you tell a little story about what problems that customer was facing, why they came to you. Maybe you include some pictures, maybe you include a little testimonial. The portfolio takes all sorts of different shapes and sizes depending on the business you're in, but basically it's a glorified case study and testimonial section. Service area pages help tie your business to the towns in which you do business. So when we work with clients, we're right downtown Grand Rapids, and Grand Rapids has a lot of surrounding smaller towns. So it's very common, let's say we're working with a painting company, we will do separate pages that say home painting in Rockford, Michigan, Byron Center, Michigan, Grand Haven, Michigan. Multiple pages because they do business in all of these smaller towns. So don't just say that you do business in like the main area where your city or your address is. If you actually provide services in other towns, you can make additional pages for those. And we do this through our service area pages. So it's usually similar content because it's the same service. You're just swapping out the name of the town that the service takes place in. You can do this pretty easily, again, copy and paste, but having separate pages for each town in which you do business helps tell Google that you do indeed do business in that town. This right here, these three things, is where most business owners fail. Most, like 99% of people will like hear this and be like, yep, sounds great, I understand it. They won't do it. And the good news for you is that 99% of people don't do it. So if you are that 1% of people that do it, this is what moves you up the ranks, because straight up, it's hard to do. It's hard to stay consistent. Things come up, life gets busy, people don't do it. But those who do get rewarded. I use fitness analogies a lot when I talk about marketing, especially this type of work. You can show up to the gym one time and you might like feel great in the moment, but the guy who wins is the guy or girl that shows up consistently over a period of time. You could write one blog article, that's great, but it's probably not going to do anything. But if you write one a month for 2 years, now you have 24 articles that will move the needle. And so it's hard. I know it's hard. I understand that it's hard, but it's what will move the needle in your business and climb the ranks. To help you with this, I've got another AI prompt down here.
Oh, that would help.
number one question I get asked at this point is, well, how often do I have to post a blog article? The answer is, well, it depends on how dense your competition is. So we'll go back to the Barefoot Wine versus the Landscaper in Ionia. If it's a lower competition, less frequent, because look at who you're up against. You know, it's kind of like going to like battle like against your competitors. You just have to beat what your competitors are doing. So if you've got tough competition, you've got more work cut out for you. If you've got pretty lazy competition, it might be a little bit easier for you. So typically I'll start off, like the most easy plan I'll give somebody would be once per quarter. So if you can do 4 of them per year, that's a great starting point. I never want to tell somebody to go do some crazy training plan that they're just not going to do. I'd rather see them do little bits in the beginning and ramp it up over time. I have another GPT prompt for you. This one's very similar to the last one. It's just tweaked a little bit. We're going to use a very similar process. We're going to start by thinking of a topic that we are genuinely excited to write about. I love what I do. I love my business. I hope you guys are in the same place where you genuinely enjoy talking about it. I like to sit down and type notes in my phone about a topic that I'm genuinely excited about. Just like if I was at a bar having a beer with a buddy and they asked me, you know, what I'm working on or what's got me excited, the same way that I would tell that friend is how I want to write these articles. Type it all out, get all my thoughts out, get it on my notes app or whatever works for you, and then we're going to use this GPT prompt. So the GPT prompt is basically just saying, I just wrote the following. You can insert blog article, case study, before and after, whatever you want here for LaunchKit. LaunchKit's website. I'd like to keep it as close as possible to my original language. This piece is important is because GPT will write in a way that sounds like you. If you just told it to write you an article, it's going to sound like a robot because it is a robot. But if you tell it to use the same mannerisms, terms, slang, like words that you use, you honestly be a little bit spooked at how much it sounds like you. So that sentence is very important in prompting here. So that's why I said as close as possible to the original language, word choice, style, and vibe. I'm looking, so how are we going to make it better? We're going to add search engine keywords to target our desired words. So landscaping, Ionia, Michigan, whatever the keywords you're going for. And then, you know, clean us up a little bit, fix our spelling, ensure it's clearly organized. I don't know about you, but when I brain dump on my notes, the thoughts are like all over the place. They're not in like chronological order. It's a nightmare. Luckily, this cleans it up. And the output of this is your blog post. So I can literally go from, I'm not kidding, I actually do this every Thursday morning. I love it. It's the first thing I do. It's like I wake up at 6, make a cup of coffee, I sit in my robe and I have my cup of coffee and I type this up and I love it. Because like this prompt takes all the stress out of it. Like to me, it's just typing notes on my phone. And then all of a sudden I have this perfect blog article. So I run this every Thursday. It works like a charm. To really turn this up, I would take the blog article that it gives you, maybe make changes to it, whatever you want, and then I'd spit it back to it and I'd say, here's the refined article. Now go take this and write me an email newsletter based on it. So you can use that long piece of content to make shorter pieces. So you might say, like, go write an email newsletter or go write a social media post about it. Because it started with your raw information. Now you can use it to make these different mediums and it's still going to sound like you, which is really cool. So this is how we go about writing blog, portfolio, and service area content articles for your website. Remember, these are the ones that you add to the site, beef up the sitemap, more pages, more keywords, more better, more recommendations. This prompt works wonders. Okay, that is kind of conclusion of the first part was website. Part 2 is going to be about directories, and Part 3 is going to be about social media. Before we move on to Part 2, does anybody have any questions about any of the website stuff that they want me to revisit or answer before I keep moving?
Are you reposting any of your blog content like any other places other than your website?
100%. I'll break it down for you. So what's really cool about blogs is, like I said, it adds pages to your website, but blogs on their own don't generate traffic, right? Because there's no algorithm for people to study our website, just like you would on Facebook, Instagram, where you get served content. So on Thursday, what I do is I do my brain dump. I get a blog article. I take the blog article and I tell GPT to make it into an email newsletter. So now I've got my email newsletter for the week, and the main call to action from the email newsletter is just to read the full article. So the email newsletter is kind of like a tease to see if somebody's interested in that topic, and if they are, they can click to go visit the full article. So we've got blog, email newsletter, and then I'll usually tell it to chop it down to a social media post for all the social media channels. And again, it's kind of a tease, like give people a little like dose of the information and say, if you find this information, you can go check out the full article. So I'm really getting 3 things out of that blog article. So I'm getting the blog article, the email newsletter, and the social piece. I'm taking this one step. I've done that for probably the past year. It's been great. We get great open rates and click-through rates on our emails. I get compliments on them, which makes me smile because it's stuff I'm really passionate about. I am taking it one step further, and now I'm making YouTube videos for each topic. So now I'll go YouTube video, blog article, email newsletter, social media post. It's challenging, it's tough. I'm pushing myself to do it. I'll let you know how it goes maybe the next time I'm here.
But what are you using, what are you using that when you send out your emails?
We use our CRM. So we use Go High Level. It's what we use as our CRM and for our clients. If you use MailChimp, HubSpot, Constant Contact, whatever you're using for your CRM should be your email sender.
Yeah,
What do you guys use for your email?
we were using Constant Contact.
Constant Contact, cool. So you have all your
But I
contacts.
feel like most people, like, it shows up and it's either in someone's spam or
Yeah, it gets technical pretty quick, but you can look into how to increase the deliverability rate.
Okay.
It's going to get real technical, so I got to be careful walking down this. But basically, you can change the subdomain
Okay.
that the email is sent from without using technical terms. The domain that's default to Constant Contact has a terrible reputation. Not Constant Contact, just
Right.
the domain,
Right.
because so many people have spam messaged through it
Right.
that when email inboxes see it came from Constant Contact's default domain, they know to put it in the spam folder, promotions, or updates tab. You can go in and change it, make it come from your domain.
Okay,
So you kind of like reset your reputation.
gotcha.
And if you screw it up, you can make a new subdomain and
Right.
do it again. So it gets kind of technical. Like if I was in your shoes, I would look up like Constant Contact, how to improve deliverability rate,
Okay.
and follow along as best you can. And then ask AI, hey, it told me to do this. What does that mean? And then just kind of keep powering through it. If you get in the weeds and you look at any emails that like came from LaunchKit, you'll see it came from m.launchkitdesign.com. M stands for mail. It's a special subdomain that just sends emails, and we don't use the default domain that the CRM uses.
Gotcha.
We have our own reputation basically instead of basing on theirs. But Constant Contact's a really powerful platform. Like you should feel really confident in sticking with them. You're in the right spot. Just look into the more advanced stuff about
Okay.
deliverability. And then to know if it's working or not, your metric to track is your open rates. So if your open rate right now is 10 or 20%, see if you can increase that number, because if people are opening the email,
Right.
it's showing up.
Yeah.
And
We're typically like a 35.
okay, that's pretty solid.
It is?
Pretty solid.
I don't feel like it's very solid.
I think it
I want it to be
depends.
100.
It depends on the industry. I think I would agree with you. I think you could challenge yourself because you probably have a pretty tight knit group.
Right.
You probably know a lot of people on that email list. I would keep pushing yourself to increase
And
it.
I'm not gonna lie, it tells you if you unsubscribed.
It does.
There was a couple people that I was like, why'd you unsubscribe
Yeah.
to my emails? And they're like, I didn't know I did. I'm like, you had to hit the
Yeah.
unsubscribe button.
You can see all the data with email.
Unsubscribe.
A lot of people will say like, do we really still have to do email marketing? People actually look at this. Don't people just unsubscribe? Yes. Like people still open it. People still click on it. Believe me, all these big companies would not be pouring millions of dollars in email marketing if it wasn't actually working. So I love it. We do it every Thursday, like I said. So Constant Contact's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
those are great questions. I appreciate you guys asking. All right, we're gonna move on and we're gonna talk about directories now. This is good news. This is way easier than the website stuff. I put the hardest first. All right. So directories are the modern day phone book. These are online listings for your business, and they create what is called backlinks. The backlink does literally exactly what it says. It links back to your website from the directory. And having backlinks from very reputable places like Google My Business, Better Business Bureau, Yelp, the local Chamber of Commerce, Yahoo, and Apple Maps shows credibility. So these are what we call the core directories. These are like any business, no matter the industry, whether you are in the photography, landscaping, pet grooming, whatever it might be, you should be on these. Once you're on these, then you can be on industry-specific ones. So all of my friends in the home service industries, I always want them to be on Angie's List, Nextdoor, industry-specific directories. And when I say be on these, all I mean is creating a profile. It's really that simple. Like, it's create a profile and fill out every possible field of information. So link back to your website, your address, your phone number. Again, search engines and LLMs are crawling these directories to see if you're legit or not. And having an address, having a phone number, having hours of operation, having some reviews goes a long ways in communicating that you guys are legit, you're actually open, you're actually in business, and you can be trusted as a recommendation. So, like I said, with the right amount of caffeine, this can be a one afternoon project. This has gotten a lot easier recently, again, with our help, ChatGPT. I like to do the website stuff first because you kind of train GPT on your business, and GPT does learn over time. So as you talk to it more and more, it's memorizing all the stuff. It knows you, basically. And now we can pull from that in a good way here. So every one of these platforms, for example, is going to ask you to like write a description or a bio for your page. I used to really struggle with this because I'd be like, ugh, I don't want to describe LaunchKit again in 100 characters. I've done this so many times. So instead, I'll use GPT and I'll just, let's say the Better Business Bureau asks for a description of your business in 200 characters. I'll say I need a description of LaunchKit for the BBB's website in no more than 200 characters, and it'll write you a search engine optimized bio for each of these as you go through. These ones change. They ask, for different things. Sometimes they'll ask like company history or about the founder. Again, you can use GPT to write all this stuff for you in a search engine optimized way. So the key here, just fill out every single field, upload your photos and videos, and like I said, use GPT to write the descriptions with the SEO keywords in mind. When we started, I said, picture a spider web. Remember, everything we talked about first was the website at the very center. Now we're kind of getting into that second ring of the spider web is all the directory listings. It's all things that point back to your website that people can interact with, that drive people back to your site. And it's not so much that you're expecting to like get a ton of web traffic from Yelp. That's not what we're trying to do here. Just the fact that Yelp points to your website boosts your website's credibility. We don't get much traffic from Yelp, but we get brownie points for being listed there because they have a good reputation. So these are the core ones. Look into any industry specifics. You could ask GPT about any industry specifics if you don't know they exist. I've definitely done that and found some. But yeah, getting listed on directories, afternoon project, you'll thank yourself. Does anybody have any question about the directories before we talk about social media? They're pretty straightforward. It's not rocket science, but
Googling my business, I always get the Ionia's Chamber that
Yeah.
pops up, so that's nice. Yeah.
Yep.
Good work.
Yeah.
That's the most powerful one out of all of them, just because it's directly tied to Google. And it takes up so much screen real estate on the right side of your screen when you type in your business name. It's also what shows up, like if you look up Chinese food near me on your phone in Google Maps, that profile that comes up, that's the Google My Business listing.
Yeah.
So, very powerful. Okay, part number 3, social media. Pretty simple. I'm not here to talk today about posting on social media. I talked about that previously. If you weren't able to attend that one, I've got tons of great content on YouTube about it, about tactics for posting on social. Today, what I just want to talk about is making sure that we've got each of these profiles search engine optimized. It's very similar to filling out the directory pages. It's just using each of these pages basically as a directory listing. So each of these, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, all give you the chance to put in your website URL, and that's going to count as one backlink for each of them. So we want to make sure that each of your social profiles is linking back to your site, so that you get credit for that. And these ones actually do drive quite a bit of traffic to your website. I'm not counting on Yelp as much to send traffic, but our Instagram page, for example, is a leading driver of traffic to our site. I always think about it like, okay, let's say the website's kind of here in the center. Well, we need to go to where the attention is, and people's attention is kind of all up here on the different social profiles. So we can get their attention up here, and then ideally we want to drive them back to the website by having a link to go back to our website on the social media profiles. So, like I said, these profiles work like directories. They send active signals to Google when you post consistently. This kind of is where like I talked about how powerful it is to keep posting blog content. This is where I'm also going to tell you to keep posting on social, because it needs to be an active account. If you land on a Facebook page and they haven't posted in 2 years, you're probably wondering if they're even still open. So we need to make sure you have consistent content going out there. So we're already all the way down here. I tried to keep today's pretty straightforward and simple. I've just seen so many SEO conversations that get so technical so quickly that it feels like you just are like paralyzed and not even knowing where to start. So I wanted to keep it really simple. I wanted to talk about the website core pages, remember our home, service pages, contact, about us pages, and then just really focus on those blog and portfolio pages, because they really do work wonders without having to get overly complicated and technical. I wanted to list out some key directories that we need to get you listed in, as well as tell you to go look up any industry-specific ones. And I want to make sure that if you are posting on social, you've got your website linked and you're able to drive traffic back to your site. So I tried to keep it pretty simple, but there's so much to do in there that, sometimes like I even fall victim to this. I'll be like, I want to do more for my business. I want to level it up. I want to, work with more customers. What should I be doing? A lot of times they come back to this kind of core principles. Okay, if I've got time, I should be creating social media content. I should be writing a blog article. Maybe I use that to run some ads, but at the end of the day, that's the core of it, is writing content, posting online, and letting people know what you're up to. Let them know that you're available for work and show off the great work that you already do. So that's what I had in store for you today. You've got copies of this, so make sure to use those GPT prompts that are in there. Those things work wonders. And try to have some fun with it. You get to write your own story. You guys get to come up with what you want to share, so have some fun with it. That's all I got. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you.
Absolutely. The second parts are like kind of quick. I feel like we spent so much time on the website stuff, but like that's where the most